I can boil down most of what I've learned in the last 5 years owning my Cessna 182 into a few key points, and it starts with finances. So I've spent a lot of money over the last few years on aviation, and I've really grown comfortable with doing so. So allow me to explain. Now, spending money on aviation is honestly a bad use of money, strictly in a money sense. But really, if we look at it holistically, it can be a great use of money. Like in terms of maximizing wealth, aviation will just definitely not help that. But lots of good decisions we make with our money don't actually maximize wealth. I mean, things like hobbies, date nights, birthday gifts for loved ones, etc. These are all like pure expenses in a financial sense, but they're really investments in the kind of life we want to live and the kind of people we want to be. And I really think flying is no different. Now, I'm not saying you should just throw your money away and just spend it on everything. No, you should work hard to preserve and grow your wealth. But if you made every single purchasing decision based on just maximizing your wealth and thinking about what that amount would be worth if you instead invested it at 8% for 40 years, you'd never buy anything. Suddenly, the decision of whether or not to add guacamole to your burrito at Chipotle isn't like a $3 decision, it's like a $100 decision in retirement. And if you're not careful, you can really get obsessed with that. And I mean, I think thinking like that sum is definitely wise and prudent, but if you're not careful, you can really succumb to just the never-ending pursuit of wanting more. So I think it's good to spend the money on the things you care about, but you also don't want to be foolish with your money and just spend it all. So this is definitely a gray area, but I think as long as you're living within your means, so spending less than you make, then the residual time, energy, effort, and resources you have left to allocate to life's pursuits and priorities and the things you want to pursue, really that's just a judgment call of where you want to spend that holistically. And that judgment call is going to be different for everyone. Secondly, purchasing the airplane really is the cheap part. How does the saying go? It's not the horse that'll make you broke, it's the hay. That's definitely relevant here. I've definitely spent the purchase price of my airplane all over again over the last 5 years just operating and maintaining it. So you definitely need to look ahead and think about these costs when formulating your airplane budget. It's not just the purchase price. Also, the timing of expenses really took some getting used to. I mean, sometimes you incur a lot of expenses and you don't even get to use the airplane. Like it's in a shop, but you're still paying for the hangar, the insurance, the GPS subscriptions, etc. Or the weather sucks and you're still paying for stuff, but you don't actually get to fly. And those periods are not fun. But the opposite is also true. Sometimes you get to go fly without ever even stopping for gas. And so it literally just feels free that day. Those are the best days. And so you really have to take the good with the bad and just try not to overreact to it. It's so different from renting where you're only charged when you're actually using the airplane. But honestly, I'm so glad that I switched over to owning, even from a financial perspective, and I'll address that at the end. Second is maintenance. Now, I got wise advice before ever buying my 182, and that was to commit to maintenance or don't commit to ownership at all. Now, I've always committed to superb maintenance, and I really think it's kept me safe. But the other benefit to mentally pre-committing to maintenance is that it just really makes it easier to accept it when some years' maintenance bills might be higher than others, or you get a surprise bill, or an airworthiness directive gets posted for your aircraft and you got to go comply with it. Now, I just really try to accept this ahead of time, that this is just part of it. And part of this actually kind of goes back to finances. Like if you're spending all of your residual money on flying, you're probably not in a great position to handle these ups and downs, and in which case renting would probably be a better option, which is exactly why I did that for years. Secondly, if at all possible, really try to get a mechanic that's based at your airport. When I first started owning, my mechanic was like hundreds of miles away. And even though it was cheaper, it was super inconvenient. So even though my shop at Addison's a lot more expensive, I really like the convenience. Everyone's gonna have different preference on this, but I really like the security of knowing like, hey, my mechanic's just one taxiway over. If I need something, I can just call him. If he needs to get into the hangar, he can get in the hangar. It's for me, it's been so worth it. Next is the airplane itself. Knowing which airplane to own has really come down to just one thing for me. What's your mission? If you can describe your mission, that really helps identify what airplane you need. I put a whole separate video talking about your average mission, and I think it'll be helpful if you're considering what airplane to own. I'll put that in the corner and down in the description. And if I look back on the last 5 years, I really think I overestimated my average mission here. I ended up flying alone like way more than I thought I would. So I probably could have gotten away with less airplane than a 182, but I've still loved that airplane. And now that my family's growing, I actually really need the function of a 182, and I might even need a bigger airplane at some point. But it just all comes back to mission. So when you're starting thinking about your first airplane or your next airplane or any airplane, you gotta start with the mission in mind. Next is ownership experience. In other words, what's it like owning an airplane? And first, I'll tell you that the freedom of airplane ownership is not exaggerated. It's not oversold. I mean, it really lives up to your daydreams. Hey, do you want to go on a trip this weekend? Cool, yeah, let's do it. Hey, do you want to go have breakfast tacos and watch the sunrise next Tuesday morning? Yeah, let's do it. I mean, all of those things really do happen. And I think as long as you are expecting the responsibilities and challenges and maintenance and stuff that comes with it, like you won't be disappointed. It really lives up to the hype. Also, one of the best parts of owning is the proficiency you develop. It is so fun to try to really get better at flying your own airplane and keep trying to know it better and better. That's been a really rewarding part of flying, trying to really get great with the wings that you have. And even with the downsides, I have loved owning over renting. I rented for years and it made sense for me to do so at the time, but really once owning checked 3 specific boxes for me, it made buying an airplane make a lot of sense, and I've never looked back. And in the video on the screen, I'm gonna tell you what that decision-making criteria was and how you can apply it to your situation. So I'll see you over there.